Okay, when we look at fiscal policy is basically a policy that is preferred by Keynesians. And the reason is basically fiscal policy requires government spending. According to the Keynesians, when you look at aggregate demand, they believe aggregate demand fluctuate too much. And sometimes it fluctuates because of an irrational wave. What do you mean by irrational? Irrational means something which is not really based on rationality, which means the right thought process. Sometimes people can become, for no reason, pessimistic or for no reason optimistic. And when they become optimistic, they will make the AD go up. When they become pessimistic, they will make the AD go down. And that fluctuation of AD can be harmful. Why? Because if AD is too high, it will cause inflation. If AD is too low, it will cause deflation, unemployment, so on. So when pessimism reigns, households reduce the consumption spending and firms reduce investment spending, and that will lead AD to go down, production to go down, and unemployment to go up. Similarly, when optimism reigns, the household will spend more, AD will go up, but there will be more inflation. And so this belief is kind of like a herd mentality or animal spirit. What is the herd mentality or animal spirit? Basically, the idea is this, that we end up following each other and do not really understand the core reason of why something like that is happening. So, for example, I have a conversation with you. You say, you know what, I believe the market is going down, and tomorrow I will believe what you're saying. And next, I'm also acting on it. I'm spreading the word around. And next, everyone is believing that the market will go down, and you will see the economy to actually start suffering from deflation or recession and so on. So, Keynesians believe because this irrational wave happens, and everyone start to follow everyone, government has a strong role of actively stabilizing the economy. So that's why they believe government should actively stabilize the economy rather than passively let the economy do its toll. This is a thought very different from the classical economists. Remember classical Adam Smith school of thought? They said let the market operate freely because in the long run there will be full employment. These guys say this, that in the long run there is no full employment. There could be a recession, but you need to make sure that you need to actively stabilize the economies. And that's why Keynesians argue that the government should actively stabilize AD to remove any severe deflationary or inflationary gap. Inflationary gap happens when the AD is too high. Deflationary gap happens when the AD is too low. And because this deflation or inflation is happening because of irrational thoughts, we got to make the economy come back to some kind of a balance. So expansionary fiscal policy could be used to prevent an economy experiencing from severe or prolonged recession. We right now we saw in the U.S. they're talking about the government to come up with a the no no the government to come up with stimulus package. The governments they're saying U.S. should come up with more stimulus package to make the economy sort of recover. Similarly, in the 1930s, when the world was going through Great Depression, the whole thought was basically let the government come and save the economy. So when you look at fiscal policy, guys, if you look at tools of fiscal policy, we're looking at two tools. Number one is change government expenditure or change taxation. Uh, these are the two tools. And for example, if you want the AD to go up, okay, if you want the AD to go up, you want to basically make G to go up or T to go down. Similarly, if you want AD to go down, you want G to go down or T to go up. Boss, excuse me. Thank you. Right? So between G and T, guys, it is a little discussion that I want to do, and we've done this before as well. Between G and T, government expenditure and taxes, which one is more powerful? And we did this earlier. We said government expenditure is more powerful. Why? Because whenever, let's say, G change by 100, let's say we make the G go up by 100, that will make my AE to change by 100, and therefore that will make my y to change by, like if the multiplier is 5 times 100 or 500. You get it? Does that make sense? So government expenditure, let's say if it increases by 100, GDP will increase by, let's say, 500. But what if I make my taxes go down by 100? If I make my taxes go down by 100, guys, what will happen then? Then you have two things that will happen. Because taxes changes your disposable income, then your change in consumption will be, let's say if MPC is zero point 0.8 and MPS is 0.2, okay? Because taxes are changing by 100, you will say that change in Y will be 100, disposable income will go up by 100, right? In fact, I should write this, disposable income should go up by 100, right? Which would mean consumption will change by 80 and saving will change by 20. And that's why, because consumption changes by 80 time, change in AE will be equal to 80, but 80 times 5 will be 400. So when you are changing, if you have a choice to change government expenditure versus taxes, always choose government expenditure because it has a larger impact. When you change taxes, number one, you're only giving benefit to those who are employed. For example, right now in the US, the unemployment is high, right? If you lower taxes, who will benefit? Those in jobs. Those who are not in job have to earn before they take the benefit of taxes, right? So always government expenditure is more powerful as a tool than taxes. Yeah, but there's a counter argument. If you're saying government expenditure go up, then you are basically also making people who are people, we call that poverty trap. Remember, we did this in the ASB. Also, we did it in ending chapter. We said that people may decide to sit at home, but even if they sit at home and they spend that money, at least GDP will go up, right? If they decide to sit at home, they will buy grocery from that. At least the economy will go up. So right now, right now we want the economy to recover from a recession. So that's the point of view. But yeah, when you are in a tricky situation where you're looking at government expenditure versus taxes, yes, you may rather want to sort of say lower the taxes so that it doesn't have a deflation, it doesn't have a disincentive effect. But my discussion more is what is more powerful as a tool, and G is more powerful than T. Because G has a whole impact, while T, because it changes disposable income, will have a change in consumption, and some part will be absorbed by saving. Make sense? Are we good? Now, guys, so if you look at it from the nose perspective, we just discussed this discussion between T and G. Keynesians favor raising government spending because they believe they will have a bigger multiplier effect. I just told you how. Increasing government spending, especially if it's on given to poor who have a high MPC, will have a higher effect also. If I give it to the poor versus to the rich, the poor has a higher MPC automatically. That will also make my multiplier effect to be larger. Okay, so that's why G is powerful than T. G can be well directed. G can be given to poor, and so on and so forth. But there are two kinds of policies we need to understand. So when you look at fiscal policy, we have two kinds of policies to look at. Number one is what we call discretionary fiscal policy. Another one is what we call your automatic stabilizer. I want to talk about both of these. Discretionary fiscal policy is basically when the government deliberately change G or T. For example, right now COVID is happening. Government deliberately said, you know what, I want the economy to recover. Let's reduce taxes or let's increase government expenditure. Okay, this basically means you went and you decided to spend $1 million, for example, or you decided to reduce taxes. Okay, but then there's something called an automatic stabilizer. What is an automatic stabilizer? Let's talk about that. In an automatic stabilizer thing, guys, the government is basically using two tools. Number one is what we call progressive taxation. Okay, and number two is they use unemployment benefits. And that will both, we will soon see, automatically make the economy recover. The reason why it's called automatic stabilizer, it automatically makes the AD recover. But before I move on, do we have a question about the deliberate, discretionary policy? No, are we sorted? Okay, so let's talk about progressive taxation, guys. Quickly, what is progressive taxation, guys? For example, AD goes up. Okay, suddenly AD goes up because of any irrational thought, right? If AD goes up, you know this, that the GDP will go up, right? And because GDP goes up, incomes go up. Income goes up. If the taxes are progressive, what will happen? If you have progressive taxation, will the tax rate go up? Isn't that true? The tax rates will start to go up, which would mean taxes will go up, which would mean AD will start to fall. Because suddenly disposable income will fall, right? Taxes will go up. I missed one loop. Your disposable income will fall, causing AD to fall. So automatically, the rise of AD is kind of like controlled. AD may not fall by the whole extent, but will fall a little bit. So you have reduced what we call, you have reduced the magnitude of shift of AD. That big shift of AD, you just cut it down because you have progressive taxation, which will make some people to spend less. Make sense? That high impact of AD can be cut down. Got it? Then comes, guys, unemployment benefits. Similarly, if the AD goes up, you know that GDP goes up. You know this, that when Y will go up, which would mean when incomes are rising, GDP is rising, jobs are being created, unemployment benefit, UE means unemployment, benefits will start to fall, which would mean government spending will fall, which would mean AD will automatically go down. So the fluctuation of AD will be, let me write this, fluctuation of AD will be minimized. You get the second idea as well, what unemployment benefit, how it's working. So anytime AD is rising too much, you would have unemployment benefit. And by the way, it's automatically, you don't need to do anything. You know this, that as long as people are on the job, give them unemployment benefit. When they do not have the job, take the unemployment benefit away. It automatically works. Doesn't have to, because when the unemployment benefits go down, G goes down. Government is paying for those unemployment benefits, right? Isn't unemployment benefits given by the government, no? So government, if unemployment benefits go down, government spending goes down. नहीं, अगर वो if they're not giving the money, if he's unemployed, I give him $100. If he finds a job, I don't give him $100. So government doesn't spend that money. So G goes down. G goes down, AD goes down. G goes up when the unemployment benefits go up. Sorry. This G means the government spending is going down. Of course, government will save that money. Whatever is government doing, that's fine. But when the government spending go down, this would mean AD will fall, right? AD is C plus I plus G plus X minus M. How? First of all, as long as he's on the job, you don't need to give him money. So your expenditure will go down. Whatever he does with his money, that's great. But at least we know our spending has gone down. So whatever benefits that we were giving, that will cut down. Of course, you will be, remember, we don't want the AD to slide downward rapidly. We just want it to be going down more, not more than what it's like. If it's too much high increase of AD, this will minimize it. This won't radically make it go down. Otherwise, the whole economy will crumble. Anytime something positive happens, the negative will bring it down to zero. We don't want that to happen. We want, if I've taken 10 steps, at least 3 steps can go backward, because you have something which can make it peg backward. No, why would you assume he would spend less? I mean, he was spending from the government money. Now he's not spending from the government money. He's spending from his own money. But the government is not spending money on him. When overall unemployment is low, the government expenditure will be low. That's the argument I'm making. Of course, people are going to earn their own salaries or whatever. But as long as they are in a job, government doesn't need to spend money. So in good times, government spending goes down, and in good times, government taxation also goes up. So they run into what we call a budget surplus or public saving. So that's good for the economy, because that money will then go to infrastructure. Like, why is UK or US, why do they have better roads than us, or why do they have better infrastructure? Because the economies are also earning more taxes in revenue. More taxes in revenue means more expenditure on infrastructure. Make sense? For us, the more economy grows, the better things will be for our country also. Make sense? Okay, guys. So this is what we call automatic stabilizer, which kind of like pegs the economy's sort of growth. Now we discuss. Now that we know fiscal and monetary policy, and we know discretionary policy as well as automatic stabilizer, let's talk about what are the limitations of fiscal policy. Okay. One of the biggest limitations of fiscal policy, which is to do with, we just discussed this, is the automatic stabilizer. If you have automatic stabilizer, the biggest challenge a government would have is this, that if they want to make the economy recover, let's say Imran Khan says, let me put more money in the economy, or for example, now Biden says that, you know what, let's recover the economy. And let's say they spend, let's say, a lot of money in terms of stimulus package. The problem is this, that if you have unemployment benefits and if you have progressive taxes, right, they automatically work, which would mean anytime I want my AD to go up by increasing G in a discretionary manner, like deliberately I make the G go up to make the AD go up, these forces will make my AD go down. My recovery will be slow, right? So we say this, that the obvious advantage that they act instantly as soon as AD fluctuates. However, they also reduce the magnitude of the size of the multiplier. They reduce the effectiveness of your discretionary policy, because you wanted the government to spend more money. Now, previously, because of these, I might need to spend not 100, but may need to spend like 500 to get my desired result, or 400 to get my desired result. So what we say is that that in theory, the business cycle should be dampened by such built-in stabilizers. In times of recession, however, if the economy begins to recover, the automatic stabilizer will reduce the size of the multiplier and reduce the magnitude of recovery, as they act a drag on the discretionary policy. They drag it backward, right? And that's why the more powerful automatic stabilizers are, the more you need to spend. And how would automatic stabilizer become more powerful? If the taxes are very progressive, they will be very powerful. Or if government's unemployment benefits are very generous, they will also be powerful. Got it? So if your automatic stabilizer is pretty strong, then it will drag AD downward, and your recovery process. So look at this from a diagram perspective. If I draw the diagram, like let's say this was your LRAS, okay, and you wanted to, you notice that there's a gap. Okay, you are at Y naught, you want to go to YF. Okay, and let's say you decided to spend a lot of money and you came at 80. But because when you went to 81, you came to YF and income went up, the automatically stabilizers will automatically build in, and they will make the AD curve shift backward to 82. The only way you can bring it back to this is when you spend more, which would mean a lot more expenditure because of these automatic stabilizers. So one big disadvantage of automatic stabilizer is basically that it basically makes your discretionary policy less powerful. You need to spend much more to get to full employment than if they were not around. If they were not around, things would have been fine. But because you had to spend much more, to come back to full employment. Got it? Does that make sense? So the first disadvantage that we point out is that while it is good because it can make you recover automatically, but it has a big disadvantage that it ends up us to spend more money in order to have our desired result. Number one. Number two, guys, is also time lags. You know, when you look at fiscal policy, the biggest time lag is not that it will show an effect, it's the political process that leads to government spending. Like you need to, if government needs to spend, let's say, on the economy, they need to go to the, the senators, they need to pass the legislation. And once the political process approves it, then you spend it. A good example of this was Obamacare. Obama decided to spend on healthcare, and it took much longer for him to get an approval because the political process was hindering it. So the idea goes this, that sometimes the time lags happen because of the government political sort of process, and after that political process goes through, then the spending happens, and then the economy will recover, which would mean it will take much longer. If you don't have a majority, for example, in the house, and your decision making it doesn't have a majority, then your policies may not be quickly going to the market and showing its result. So biggest problem with fiscal policy is that political sort of negotiation, passing and implementation may take much longer. Although G is very quick to respond. Once government spending is there, you can see the economy recover quickly, but it doesn't really happen really quickly because of the fact that there is a lot of government approvals required and so on. Got it? So second criticism we have is time lags. If the government plans to increase spending, this can take a long time because government spending have a political process, and alteration in any policy would mean you need to have approvals, which would mean there will be delays. Not lastly, next is basically, guys, government also has poor information. This is a criticism a lot of monetarists and classical economists believe that government does not know how much AD they need to spend. Sometimes government may end up spending too much, and if they spend too much, there will be inflation. Sometimes they may not spend enough, and that could cause the AD to not recover. So lack of information, and let's say if I don't know my multiplier, I don't know how much I need to spend to make my economy recover. So to predict future inflation and growth is not easy, and therefore it may be difficult to know how much to increase or decrease AD. For example, for fiscal policy to be effective, the government can estimate accurately the impact that changes in government spending and taxation will have on the economy. To do this, they will have to have a good idea of the multiplier and awareness of the possible side effects of these policy measures. Because government can get it wrong, they might not be able to make the economy recover. So a good example of this is that if you don't know your multiplier, and let's say if you were here, right, and you want to come to this point, but you might end up overspending, and you may cause inflationary pressure on the economy. So lack of information make your policy to be not accurate, and that can lead to a problem. Make sense? Any questions about this? Then comes something which you guys were pointing out. Expansionary fiscal policy has a disincentive effect on efforts and initiatives. The higher the tax rates, the more likely taxes are to create a disincentive to work and invest. And that's the big problem as well, because when you are increasing taxes, you are causing basically unemployment to rise because people may have a disincentive to work. Similarly, if your unemployment benefits go up, we just talked about it, that can also make unemployment to go up because people might say the unemployment benefits are so comfortable, I'd rather sit at home. So fiscal policy has what we call an adverse disincentive effect. It distorts the incentives in the market. Make sense? Any questions about this? Okay. Last one is crowding out. I'm going to leave crowding out for tomorrow. It's slightly longer discussion, so I'm going to leave crowding out for tomorrow's discussion. Okay. And I want to show this in terms of a diagram. And tomorrow, what we'll also do tomorrow is Wednesday, right? So we'll also do is look at some of the exam questions for chapter number 7 before we jump to unemployment, which is chapter 8. Let's spend tomorrow's time in terms of looking at some MCQs and essay questions and finish crowding out. Okay, guys, thank you very much.